on the plane back from London, I'm catching up on stuff. I got my Wi-Fi right, and I'm reading the stories, and I'm seeing what happened in Arizona. And, we're on the way back to Phoenix. We're passing over Canada.
Oh, for sure,
Right. And I'm just thinking, like, Canada must feel like they live in an apartment above a meth lab.
Probably.
Right?
We're a little crazy.
It's nuts in the United States right now. It is absolute insanity.
You know what? It feels that way. And I was thinking about
is that way.
But is it that way because we talk about things now? We have a way to connect in a much different way. Because it's 24/7 and we're inundated with news.
All right, Roe v. Wade. Who ever thought that would be overturned? No one. I really believe it. No one. No one ever thought this thing was going to be overturned. And
I think a lot of people thought there was a chance. I did. I think a lot of pro-life people thought eventually the opportunity is going to come and somebody's going to look and say, look, we're not saying it shouldn't be illegal or shouldn't be illegal. We're just saying that the of what it's built upon, it's kind of like that was really not the right way to build upon this case.
But when you have the Senate confirmation hearings and you got Gorsuch and Kavanaugh and Barrett say, listen, we're leaving it alone. They obviously lied. They lied.
Well, they brought another one to there. The thing is,
they lied.
Why did they
tell me they didn't lie?
Why did they expand it? That's what I want. Well, of course.
What do you mean expand it?
Well, because originally it was all about Dobbs and Mississippi.
Right.
Which Dobbs came in. Funny thing is, the guy who is Dobbs, he's like, I have nothing to do with the case, but they have to put somebody's name on it. So they 15 weeks, right? Mississippi. Everybody freaked out. So here goes 15 weeks. Lo and behold, they go from that to now let's take a look at Roe and Casey. How did it get from point A to point B?
I guess it was all planned. But when they go up in front of the senators and they've got to get confirmed and they are asked questions about Roe v. Wade and they say, listen, we're going to leave it alone. All three of them said, we're going to leave it alone. They lied. I'm sorry, but they lied. So will a Senate confirmation hearing ever be the same again? So I blame those three for lying. That I don't like. Let me just say this, too. For everybody on the left that's saying, oh, this was horrific, and this was... Listen, your girl, RBG, it's her fault, too. Yeah. Ruth Bader Ginsburg should have stepped down before she passed away. I'm sorry. Woman had cancer twice. Okay? Obama invited her to the White House and said, I don't know you that well. Let me get to know you a little bit. He got to know her a little bit. Then he asked her later on, he goes, listen, I think we need to replace you. And she said, no. What kind of ego do you have? But step down if you want a liberal justice to replace you, you better do it now. And she didn't do it. So everybody that's blaming Gorsuch, Barrett, and Kavanaugh, which, by the way, I do blame.
But see, the thing
you got to blame Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
You go and you look and you talk, like Wall Street Journal's got a great article. They're like, nobody, when they talked about the Dobbs case, which is what they talked about, not one of them said anything about Roe v. Wade. They asked him questions, but it was about the Dobbs thing, and they stayed away from any future things. Now, they may feel like they were lied to, but I go and look at the Democrats. You had years to codify this. You had years.
Of course.
By the way, Obama ran on codifying Roe v. Wade, never did it.
There's no doubt.
It's just like, how many times have we heard about, we're going to get immigration done? Nobody ever does.
Yep.
Because I think a lot of times the money's so good, the argument's so good, who's going to stop us? Let's just fight about it. We'll all be okay with it. And finally something got there where they're like, we've given power to this certain branch of government that is the most powerful branch, and now those 9 oracles get a rule on stuff because the people that are, quote-unquote, supposed to be our leaders that we elect, they don't want the responsibility.
They don't want to make the tough decision.
Of the tough decision.
And this is what we have now.
That's it.
So I think you got to look at 4 justices. You got to look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg and ask, why didn't she step down? And you've got to ask the question of Gorsuch, Barrett, and Kavanaugh. If you said you weren't going to touch Roe v. Wade, why did you touch it? Because now, to me, you're politicians. You're a bunch of liars. And you're not supposed to be politicians. But they're absolutely politicians. That's the sickening
Because politicians are looking for somebody who can represent their side in a way where they don't have to worry about being replaced. Because as a politician today, if you go out and you do what you think is the right thing, because it's the right thing to do, you may get people who believe it's the wrong thing to do who vote you out of the office, even if it ends up hurting them. But in a world of vitriol and anger and emotion, that's the sad thing that happens. So these 9 elected, they're 9 elected, and guess what? They don't have to worry about being reelected.
No, they're there forever.
Yeah.
Until they want out. 63% of Americans disapprove of their decision. I can listen all day to both sides. Both sides have great points. There's no question about it. But you have to ask, did they do what the American people wanted? The answer is no. It's a flat out no. It's 63%.
But we're not ruled by the majority. We're ruled by law. We're ruled by the Constitution. And that's what these men and women are appointed to do, is protect the Constitution and the people.
Or you just leave it the way it was for the last 50 years. But
So-
they didn't do that.
But if you ask somebody something,
Right?
you might get the question you don't want, even though it's been there for 50 years. Somebody could say, well, it's like Cosby, right? Perfect example. Eventually, they had to let Cosby go. Why? Because according to everything, he should never have ever been prosecuted based on the deal that he had made because of the civil trial.
But it's
We
all how
don't
you-
like it, but the reality is that's the way it works.
But we had a court that interpreted it one way 50 years ago and a court that interpreted it a different way 50 years later. I don't know which is right. I'm not a lawyer. I have no idea.
Yeah.
You can have your opinions on it.
I'm a big fan of states' rights, but I'm also look around and say, look, here we're in a state right now where you should be active. If you want to get things overturned, if you think things are going to go your way, you need to be active
you need to be
because this
active,
is
right.
the way things are going. It's about the states.